Dear students, welcome to our online class. Hope you are keeping well. Today my lesson is for the students of BA Honors first year as well as for those of second year. Both of you have a course titled English Reading Skills for the first year and Advanced Reading and Writing Skills for the second year. In this course, in one part, you have to respond to a poem critically according to the questions stated below the poem, which frequently makes you muddled and you get very low marks or poor marks in this section. So my today's attempt is to give you something, is to help you to understand how to analyze a poem critically. So let's crush this. To analyze a poem, at first we have to learn some key points. These key points are basically literary terms which are needed for analyzing a poem. The first one is alliteration. Alliteration means the repetition of the initial consonant sounds in two or more neighboring words. For example, black buck beat a big black bear. In this sentence, there's a repetition of ba sound. Blank verse. Blank verse means unrhymed iambic pentameter. That means in the poem there's no end rhyme. For example is taken from the Paradise Lost, Book 1 by John Milton, of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree whose mortal taste brought death into the world, all our woe, with loss of Eden, till one greater man restore us and regain the blissful seat. Conceit. Conceit means exaggerated metaphor or simile. For example, in Valediction Forbidding Morning, John Donne compares two lovers to a pair of compasses. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is a figure of speech that uses extreme exaggeration to make a point or to show emphasis. For example, 10,000 saw I at a glance, used by William Wordsworth in his poem I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. Here the speaker describes his encounters with a host of golden daffodils. In order to show the daffodils' profusion, the speaker uses this expression. Irony. Irony means appearance versus reality. That means where there's a incongruity between appearance and reality. The use of the words to express a meaning that is totally different from the literal meaning. For example, in the short story, The Luncheon contains many examples of verbal irony. Meter. The basic rhythmic structure of a line within a work of poetry. Meter consists of two components, the number of syllables and a pattern of emphasis on those syllables. Foot. A poetic foot is a basic sequence of meter composed of two or more accented or unaccented syllables. The most important foot which we will learn are iambic, trochee, anapest, and dactyl. Iambic. An unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. Trochee or trochaic. A stressed syllable followed by an unstressed syllable. Anapest. Two unstressed syllables followed by a stressed syllable. Dactyl. A stressed syllable followed by two unstressed syllables. Trimeter, a line of 3 feet 6 syllables. Tetrameter, 4 feet 8 syllables. Pentameter, a line of 5 feet 10 syllables. Hexameter, a line of 6 feet 12 syllables. Metaphor. Metaphor is an implied comparison between two dissimilar subjects. For example, her cheeks are red, red rose. In this sentence, her cheeks are compared with red rose. Simile. Simile is a comparison between two unlike subjects by using like or as. For example, I wandered lonely as a cloud. In this sentence, the speaker compares himself with a cloud in regard of loneliness. Position. Whether the poem is subjective or objective. Subjective poem refers to when the poet expresses his own thoughts or feelings or emotion, and objective writing is based on facts or observation. Oxymoron. Oxymoron refers to two contradictory words when they are used side by side. For example, a sweet disorder in her dress. In this sentence, sweet and disorder, these two contradictory words are used side by side. Paradox. Paradox is a statement that apparently contradictory, but later it proves true. For example, the child is the father of man. This means the idea that the character we form as children stays with us into our adult life. Onomatopoeia. Words which sound what they mean. For example, buzz. Personification. The attribution of human qualities to non-human inanimate objects. For example, in Keats' Ode to Autumn, autumn is personified. Parallelism. When parts of the sentence are grammatically the same or are similar in construction. For example, I have a dream, a speech of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, in his speech, uses this portion, I have a dream, several times. Rhyme scheme. A pattern of writing poems when two or more lines rhymed together. Scanning. Analyzing a line of poetry to determine its meter. Internal rhyme. A pattern in which rhyming words exist within the same line of poetry. In The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Samuel Taylor Coleridge used this. For example, the ship was cheered, the harbor cleared. In this sentence, cheered and cleared rhyme together. Attitude. Point of view or the way of thinking. It can be positive or negative, etc. Style. The method which a poet uses to convey a meaning. The arrangements of the words in a line and the lines in a poem both contribute to poet's style. Tone. The writer's attitude towards the subjects or audience. Tone may remain the same throughout the poetry or it can change very quickly. Mood. How we are made to feel as readers or the emotion evoked by the author. Imagery. This refers to mental pictures. That means which pictures we can imagine. Generic form. It refers to the type of a poem. A poem can be a sonnet, can be an epic, can be a ballad, or can be an ode. Theme: the central idea of a work. Sonnet: a 14-line poem written in iambic pentameter. Sonnet is of two types: Shakespearean sonnet and Petrarchan sonnet. Summary: outlining the main points of something. Now we have come to a very important part. In this part, we will learn how to scan a poem. Scanning a poem is also known as prosody. It is a process of marking the stresses in a poem. In order to scan a poem, we have to identify the stressed syllables and unstressed syllables, and also we have to identify foot boundary and meter. There are some steps to scan a poem. The first step is to read the poem out loud, line by line. At first, you have to read the given poem aloud to yourself, and you have to understand which word or which part of the word sounds louder and which word or which part of the word sounds weaker. Then mark stronger syllables with a wand. In the given picture, we find that all the things we hide in water. In this sentence, wand is put above all things hide and wa. That means these syllables are stressed syllables or stronger syllables. In this way, at first, we have to identify the stronger syllables. We have to place cup over any syllables that are not as loud as others. When we read them aloud, they will be the less stressed syllable or unstressed syllable. In the picture below, we find that in the line all the things we hide in water, the, we, in and tar are marked with cup. That means these are unstressed syllables. Step number 4. Mark each foot with a foot boundary. We have to place a foot boundary at the end of a repeating pattern of the same wands or cups, known as a foot. In a poetry, a foot is a group of syllables that make the same pattern in the poem. Step number 5. Count the feet in the poem. We have to count the wands in each line of the poem to determine the foot. The end of each foot should have a foot boundary. In the given poem, we find that every line has 4 wands. That means it has 4 feet, which refers to 8 syllables. Step number 6. Note how the foot is accented. It will help determine the pattern of syllables in the poem. We have to count all the stronger syllables in each foot of the poem. We have to notice if there is a pattern where there is a less stressed syllable and then a strongly stressed syllable in the poem, or if there is a pattern where a strongly stressed syllable and then a less stressed syllable. And in the given poem, we find that a stressed syllable is followed by an unstressed syllable, which is called trochaic or trochee. Step number 7, we have to mention the irregularities, if any. Now we can come to a conclusion that this poem is written in trochaic tetrameter. That's all for today. In our next class, we will solve a poem. Till then, keep well. Thank you.